my name is Chereen. So Chereen, got it right. Chereen and Chereen. I'm from London. I'm half Turkish and half English. I was born and raised in the UK in London. I was in the fitness industry for a very long time and a teacher at the same time. So these like two careers. And then I decided to kind of leave the education, like teaching world and fitness world, and come into the world of mind, yes. And so now for a number of years now, I have been a self-love and empowerment coach, and that is my passion, really, just really helping women to really kind of fall back into first acceptance, then I guess and then true love, and that sense of power. So probably kind of similar, what's the word, yeah, kind of quite aligned with what Chereen does as well, you know, empowering women and empowering women in different ways, but ultimately it's the same thing. It is empowering you. So that's what I do. And I do, you know, life coaching and theta healing and embodiment work and different techniques, but all really to kind of just empower you.
Thank you for that. So just to say hi to everyone that's coming on live at the moment. If you have any questions, please do pop them in the comment below. And towards the end of the conversation with Chereen, I will look at the questions and we can answer them then. So the first question that I ask everyone, Chereen, when they come on is, what does the word power mean to you?
Yeah, it's a really great question. It's a beautiful question, because I think as you transform and evolve and grow, I think that word means different things. I think sometimes at the beginning of your journey it can be quite a scary word, like power, like really, you know. So for me now, where I am now, power really means for me like a deep sense of self-love, a deep sense of self-trust, and a deep sense of self-belief. Because when I am able to come from a place of deep sense of self-worth and knowing of like who I am and what I deserve, and this is what I do for my clients, you know, it's all the same thing, and trusting and believing in self, that is when you like step into your power as a woman, as a person, as a human. So I would say that's, yeah, kind of to summarize it, that's what it would mean to me.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So the next question that I have is, when you feel empowered or you feel really powerful, like how does that feel in your body? Like how does that show up?
Yeah, I love that question. So as again, most of you know, Chereen is an embodiment coach like myself as well, and so we're really like into embodiment, because that is like I call it the icing on the cake to healing, right? Like when you can feel whatever it is that you want is when that transformation takes place. So that practice of knowing what something feels like in your body, and being able to keep on tuning into that feeling, is what's gonna really anchor that feeling and make that part of your life. So through this embodiment work, I have been able to do more and more of that, because I was quite separated from that before. So for me now, it's really interesting, like when I visualize it, when I feel into it, what I visualize and then feel into is like, I feel this like rod coming from, like, I don't know where it comes from, but somewhere at the top of the universe, and it's like a light that goes straight through me and like anchors me into the ground, and then it's like it kind of explosive in a really like feminine but strong, powerful but sensual, you know, like loving way. So yeah, but it's really like this rod and then this feeling. And it's not something I feel all the time, for sure. You know, definitely not for sure. You know, but when I feel it, that's where it is.
Yeah. Do you find that, because I've experienced that, what you're talking about, that rod, that like it's really powerful, really solid, and it's really grounding and anchors you, you know, in the moment. But what I've also found as well is like my embodiment of power changes, it fluctuates.
Mm.
So it could be that, but then it can be really feminine and soft, but really expansive, which
Totally.
feels really powerful.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. And I think, you know, power can also be like deep sense of self compassion. And if you're gonna be in that deep sense of compassion, then maybe you're not, it wouldn't necessarily feel like that, you know. It would, for me, I kind of, that would be more like a rising power from my belly, and kind of maybe like a sense of like a gentle fire warming me to give me love, you know. So yeah, definitely I think it depends on what it is that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
But really important to know the different feelings, because then when we kind of keep on going back to them, we're able to become more of them, right? And
Yes,
become it more easily, instead of being
absolutely.
like, you know, there's affirmations are like, I am powerful, I am strong, I am confident, I love myself. It's like, the brain is not believing it because the body is not feeling it.
Exactly, yeah. Um, so right, so here we are. Would love to know what your power story is.
Yeah, okay. So actually this is lovely. I think it's kind of just what I needed to go back to, like, what is my story, you know. And for me, I think ultimately my story is like my story back to self-love, and then to that sense of like empowered self. I would say that I was born a very sensitive child. Now that I'm older and I do the work that I do, I understand that so much more. And actually that was my power. That is my power. And that was my power. But I was disconnected from that power. It was like, oh, you're so sensitive. Oh, you're so emotional. Oh, she cries a lot, you know, and I didn't know how to handle any of that. And so it just kind of got worse, really, because I wasn't empowered in that sense of emotional self. But because I was very sensitive, I think when things happened externally, I really took those things on quite deeply to mean something about myself. So when I was about 8 years old, but up until I was like 8 years old, I basically couldn't read. And then my mum was like, okay, like I have to do something about this, and she sent me to a private school. And that wasn't like an easy thing for them, but she had to do, she felt like she had to do that. And then I had to stay back a year. So I actually missed like a year of school because I did like year 4 twice. And a lot was created at that time, with regards to feeling not as clever as others, feeling not as, you know, not as intelligent. And then I got the ultimate limiting belief. By the way, I've got a hot water bottle on my belly, and I was just like, oh, the hot water bottle's rising. I can feel it. Like, damn, everyone's seen my hot water bottle. Did you see it?
Oh, I love that. Self-nurture, self-care.
Distraction. So anyway, back to my story. So yeah, so all these stories were created about basically self-worth. And then that became, I would say, like the starting point to I guess like my struggles, my pain, my story. And then anyway, so then I had to take exams to get into another school for year 7, and I basically failed them and everyone else passed them. And then I ended up having to like study a lot. And this was also something I wanted. It's like I was never pushed to do it or made to do it or anything like that. It was something that I wanted. But it was because I wanted to be like the other kids, right? Like I felt not as clever, not as intelligent, not as good as, or whatever stories were created at that time. And so anyway, I then did get into this school that I wanted to get into. And I spent my whole, you know, secondary school proving myself to myself. Yeah, proving that I was able to get those grades, I was able to pass those exams. And I think it's very complex, but ultimately I think because I felt not good enough, anything that happened in school just was like one trigger after the other, another layer, another layer, another layer, another layer. And by the time I got to 15, 16 years, I think it was about 15 years old, maybe 16, that not good enough transpired into other areas of my life. So it went from like academia and like being too emotional as what maybe I was kind of, you know, identified as through friends, to a body a body image disorder and an eating disorder, and then bulimia, you know, and it kind of just transpired into different areas of my life. And then I became obsessed with exercise and obsessed with my body and obsessed with being slim, and yeah, and I got quite ill through that. um and then I got into the fitness world. So on one side of it, I was like really healthy, and in a really good way. I exercised, I looked after myself, I took care of myself, but in my mind, I was obsessed with being better, with looking better, with the way my stomach looked, and the size that I was, and the weight that I was, and being in this industry that is obsessed with this stuff. It just made things worse, you know, and it, again, like knocked my confidence, knocked my sense of self-worth, not feeling enough. So it's always like, you know, it started as not feeling enough from that 8 years old, and then everything kind of just got added to that story because it really affected me, and it just got worse, and there was another layer.
Yeah. So what was the or could you pinpoint, and you might not be able to, the transition from the academic, where it was obsessive and really lots of work on that, to the body image? Was there a transition?
I don't think there was a transition, but I remember it kind of became about like boys, and I wasn't really into I wasn't really into boys like all the other girls were. I was kind of into my studies, you know. I was like, you know, a typical good girl, you know, just studying, doing my work, and then there were other girls smoking behind the bushes, and you know, doing all those kind of things that you're not supposed to do at school, you know. So my focus very much on school, and then obviously, you know, 15, 16-year-olds, I did start to get a bit interested in boys, and I got obsessed with magazines. And so I would be buying all these magazines like constantly, and it was all about these celebrity bodies all the time. And I remember I read an article about bulimia, and I thought, oh, what a good idea.
Wow.
I remember that day. I thought, oh, what a good idea, you know. And at that point, there was this, I think I was 16 then, and there was a boy that I liked, and it was very slim. I was like a UK size 8, which is, you know, pretty slim. I was, you know, and healthy. And I think I got very paranoid about feeling that they wouldn't like me, or that I wasn't pretty enough, or beautiful enough, or slim enough, or sexy enough, or enough. It was always enough.
Yeah.
Enough, you know. Yeah, and so I think that was probably like that transition, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So you were saying that you transition over to the fitness world. So what was that journey about then?
Yeah, so I was actually like a master trainer for a very big fitness brand, and in the world of fitness, there is also obsession of our body and what you look like, and what you look like on stage, and all these women and men dieting constantly, you know, like, or not eating, being very, very restrictive, exercising very vigorously, a lot of comparison. So that just kind of fueled my low self-esteem. And yeah, and that kind of that obsession continued, and it just continued and continued and like for years, until I was 28 years old. And I literally woke up one day and I was like, that's it, like I've had enough, like I've just had enough, you know, because I literally had enough of not feeling enough. I was like, I can't feel this anymore. It's so hard. And I decided to leave the fitness industry. And I would say that for me, that was, how old was I think that was like 7 years ago. And that, I think, was the turning point to like my healing and my recovery, because but up until 20, I had like therapy, like counseling and CBT therapy, and it did help me.
Mhm.
But it was not until I left that world that I was able to, I guess, really begin healing. And one of the biggest reasons I left was also because I was like, I want to help women feel good about themselves. I don't want them to feel how I felt, because I
Yeah.
felt so bad about myself. You know, I've probably been on every single diet that there was up until like 7 years ago. You know.
Wow.
um
Yeah.
so, and I was like, I don't want women to feel like this, you know. Yes, I totally believe in health. Yes, I totally believe in a balanced body weight. Yes, I totally believe in exercising. Yes, I totally believe in eating healthily. But I totally believe in feeling good and loving yourself and self-acceptance. And actually, a lot of the time in the fitness industry, and I'm not saying this is the way it is, absolutely not, but there is a lot from what I've seen. Actually, the obsession stems from low self-esteem and low self-worth, and that's why the obsession around your body happens. And in order to quite often the reason why diets don't work and fitness plans don't work is because the mindset around the way you feel about yourself is driven by pain, you know.
Mm.
Feeling like I've got to feel better, I've got to change myself, I'm not good enough the way I am, I don't like my legs or my thighs or my belly or my hips or my whatever it is, and so I must change, instead of being like, actually, I love myself and respect myself so deeply that I want to feel good, so I'm going to look after my body. And there totally are people who are able to do that, of course there are, but many people are not doing it in that way, and it's from a place of like pain, you know, whether you're aware of it or not.
Yeah, no, of course. And I can really relate to that, because I think like now I completely like love myself on my good days, on my bad days, you know. It's all good. But there was a time where there was definitely body parts that I would just be really embarrassed about, didn't like. And it's because of all these images
Yeah.
that were constantly shown. It's like, this is how we're supposed to look, this is how it's supposed to be. And it's like, well, I don't look like that. And even if I worked out, my body is not, it's not going to be that shape, because I've got my body shape. And it took me a while, and even with my mummy tummy and my hand, like I've had to really work a lot to really embrace it and love it and go, do you know what, it's my body. I carry 2 babies, and this is what I'm left with, and I love it, and I rub it. Do you know what I mean? And give it some love, because otherwise it takes you to some really low, dark places.
And I think that bit that you said like at the beginning is about, first it's self-acceptance. So, you know,
Mm,
you don't, it's quite difficult to go from hatred to a deep sense of self-love, you know.
yeah.
It was like, I always had, like, even when I was size 8, I just always had a soft tummy, and I used to look at all these like flat washboard abs and be like, oh my god, like I'm fat, my belly is disgusting. I literally wanted to cut my belly off, like when I was younger, because I hated it so much. and and you know, through my recovery, I would want to call it, I guess, and healing, it's like cookie dough. It's so, like, it's so nice and soft, and you know. So, and it literally is like that. And don't get me wrong, I still have like days, and I'm like, oh god,
Mhm.
like, you know. And I believe I'm human, and that's why that happens. But it's self-acceptance, and then it's like, and then it's like, actually, I'm gonna love this part of me, because I either choose to love it or hate it, and I actually want to love it, and I want to love me instead of hating self.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm so glad that you said that, because I think sometimes when people say, "Oh, you should just love yourself," it can sound really patronizing and really frustrating, because it's just like, if you don't even like yourself,
Mm.
like how do you love yourself? So like you said, first it starts with the acceptance.
Mhm.
Like, I'm like, this is my body, this is what I look like, I accept that. Then you can start liking it and picking out little things what you like, and then it turns into self-love gradually. But I think sometimes when people just make that throwaway comment, which I'm sure they mean well,
Mm.
it's just like, oh, it's not that, for me anyway, I know my journey, it's not that easy just to wake up one morning and go, I'm just going to love all of me. You
Yeah.
know, it's a process and it's a journey.
Totally, yeah. And actually, another thing that came to my mind, which I actually forgot about, was that I had extremely bad acne. And when I say bad, I mean like boils and cysts on my face for like 10 years. I used to wear so much makeup because I wanted to hide it. And I took, in the end, I had to take this medicine called Roaccutane, which can be quite dangerous, really. And I had to take it like twice, because my skin was so bad, and you know, and that really affected my confidence and my self-esteem as well. So yeah, I think for me, I'm very much about being natural, because you know, I went through all these like pains, like physically, you know, like what I felt about myself, and what the media and society told me I should be like in order to be beautiful and accepting, you know. And it's like, well, actually, you are like, who says who is beautiful? Who makes that decision? You know, who? We get to make that decision. And again, I know that's not that can, it's like I'm saying that and it doesn't necessarily always feel like that, but that's where that journey comes to being like, actually, you know, I do deeply love myself, you know, and I am going to accept myself, and I don't feel like I have to change myself. And yeah, and some days I might, but then I go back to that sense of self-love. So like when, you know, my mum sometimes, she's like, don't you want to put some makeup on and put a dress on? I'm like, you know, don't you want to get out of your leggings? I'm like, not really, like I feel good, like do that, you know, like if I want to I will, but I don't feel like I have to. And that is quite empowering for me, you know.
Yeah. For, oh sorry, I thought I put my phone on silent. For anyone that's watching, that may be, you know, struggling with maybe an eating disorder, or even, you know, with acne and stuff, could you share with us, if it's okay with you, like what was the thing that helped you, I guess, heal from your eating disorder and stuff? Like what? Because how am I asking this question? Yeah, what helped you? What helped? Because you had the eating disorder when you were was a child. Yeah.
So I would say maybe like 15, 16 till, I guess, like making myself sick to about like, I can't remember the exact number, but let's say like 20-ish, you know, maybe a little bit before that. But then complete obsession with dieting and body, which is disordered eating, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that's a difficult question for me to answer, because there isn't obviously one thing, and it is a journey and it is a transition. I think there are several things which I could, well, there's probably lots, but there are several things that come to mind that I can share. I think first it was like the decision that it's like, I don't want to live like this anymore. You know, that decision I think is really important. The acceptance, like, oh, I have got an issue and I want to sort it out because it's not good for me. You know, I remember like when I was maybe 18, 19, I would like eat, and then because I'd made myself sick so often, the food would like naturally just come up. You know, that's kind of what happened to my body. And actually, and that was when I decided that I wanted to stop making myself sick, because I was like, this is not normal, it's not okay, it's not right. So I think there has to come to a point in your life, like with anything, where you make that decision, you know. And then you can get help. For me, when I stopped dieting, that was when, like, I want to say, can't swear, but the SHIT changed. Because people are very scared to let go of control around kind of food and exercise. And there's this deep fear, like, I'm gonna, like, for me it was like, I'm gonna get fat if I stop dieting. And the truth was like, absolutely not, I did not, you know. At the beginning I put on a bit of weight, I can't really remember, but not really, you know, because I began to listen to my body, and there's only a certain amount of chocolate that you can eat until you feel sick, you know. And I remember, I've got this book up here somewhere, it's called Stop Binging, and I remember reading that book, and that was one of the thick tips that it gave, and it said, you know, you need to stop dieting. And so that can be a really scary thing, and you know, you want to maybe get support around that. But it's about, you know, coming back into your body and being intuitive of how your how you're eating and why you're eating. You know, when you are when you've got a disordered eating pattern, it's usually due to some kind of emotional wounds, you know. So beginning to deal with those emotional wounds, that might be coaching, or that might be healing, or that might be therapy. And it doesn't always, one thing doesn't always work. There might be different therapies or different healings, or, you know, different counselors you have to go to depending on what actually kind of feels good for you. I had a lot of therapy when I was younger for all this stuff, and it didn't start to work until I began to have CBT therapy. But yeah, I would say, sorry, I don't know if I'm taking too long to answer.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I think ultimately it was like leaving the fitness industry because I left the world of obsession, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of removing myself from the trigger, and then doing and making that decision, and then kind of doing the healing work, and ultimately learning to like love myself. Yeah. And as I said, first that acceptance, but being like, there's nothing wrong with me, you know. And that took time, you know. You know, like it was only until, honestly, like this whole being so sensitive, like I live my whole life with everyone telling me I'm so sensitive. And that was such an issue for me. Like, I felt absolutely terrible about myself because I'm so sensitive. And I'm like, literally like 2 years ago, I realized, like, that's my superpower. Like, that is why I heal people, because I'm so sensitive that I can read people's energy. I can tune into their body. I'm intuitive. I know what they need. I know how to help them, you know, and that is my superpower, you know. So it's a huge difference. But yeah, I think there are layers and levels, and it's a journey, but ultimately I would say those 3-4 things, or however many I mentioned.
No, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that, because I just think that's really useful information for someone that might be supporting someone going through that, or someone that is going through that, just to say that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe you've given them some tips that they can use there. So just thinking, where was you up to now before I interrupted you? It's like you left the fitness industry, and then you went into, was
Yes,
that
I went back to teaching for a bit. And that year I actually moved abroad to Turkey, and I dieted the whole year. So I left the fitness industry and I kind of left exercise. So my obsession with exercise kind of began to rebalance itself. At the same time, I was dieting the whole year, like on like Atkins kind of diet. Got to the summer, was really quite slim. You know, probably again a size, which I wasn't unhealthy slim, but what I was doing was not healthy, you know, and my psychology was not healthy. But during that year, I read a lot of kind of like, you know, healing books and self-help books and self-development books, and watching videos and that kind of thing. And so my mind began to expand. So I left the fitness industry. I was dieting, but I was reading kind of all this personal development books. And it got to summer, and I did feel very confident about my body at that time. I did kind of feel really good, but again, I knew what I was doing was like not good for my body. Yeah, and so can't remember exactly what happened, but I think it was like the same thing. I was like, you know, I can't, from going from, I can't make myself sick. It was like, no, I can't keep dieting forever. You know, this is so unhealthy. I'm trying to starve myself, basically, you know. I'm eating because I've always eaten, but now it's like I'm trying to not eat, you know. So and it was like, no, like I've left the fitness industry, I've left that world. I'm balancing my relationship with exercise, and now I need to do that with food finally. So yeah, so I kind of I think again I just stopped, because I think for me it's like with anything, again, I'm repeating myself, but when we make that decision that I want that thing, is when that thing happens. And sometimes, you know, there's that journey to getting there, and you can get that support and help to getting to that point, but that point is the tipping point to making it happen. And so that was my tipping point. And then I just went on to this like huge, like I'm just looking up there because I have so many books. I went like into the world of like healing. And when I say healing, I don't mean like just energy healing. I just mean, you know, like transforming yourself, transforming your mind, transforming the way you think, your beliefs, yourself. And the first book that I read was Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, I think it is.
Oh yes, the staple book for personal developers.
Once you get into the world of growth, one thing leads to another and another and another and another, and it becomes a bit like a positive rabbit hole, you know, and you just learn more and more and more and more and transform more and more and more and grow more and more and more, and everything, all these positive emotions and feelings and ways of living become more and more and more and more. Yeah, and so you learn so much, and you learn so much about empowering yourself, and you may get into times where you're triggered again in some way, but because you have learned so much, the way you deal with it, the way you handle it, or how long you're in that place, whether your thing is anxiety or sadness or guilt or eating disorder or and being alcoholic or whatever that might be for someone, because you've evolved and transformed, and you've now got these tools where you are. Let's say, for example, if you're a person who suffers with depression, you might feel like that for a day instead of 3 months.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that is like transformative.
Absolutely. Wow. Gosh, thank you for sharing all that, because I know it can be quite sensitive sometimes as well, but there was a question I wanted to ask you that you mentioned. Oh, what was it?
Food, eating.
It's got, that's what I was going to say. It's, do you know what's beautiful to see after listening to your story that you shared? I know you're quite a foodie now, so you're into really nice food. You've always well, I mean, it's not, I guess it's not the association that I would make, but it's like now you seem, or from what it appears, like you have a really nice relationship with food, like you really enjoy it. Seems like you really enjoy food now, and you really have that balance, because I know you still work out, but it's more about pleasure, it feels.
Yeah, definitely. I think everything is about pleasure for me now. I mean, you know, I love exercise, and that doesn't mean I wake up every day and I'm like, yes, I want to run on the treadmill. I probably never feel that, but I know the feeling I'm going to get from it, and that's what kind of drives me. But everything is like, okay, I'm going to do it in a way that feels good. So if I wake up and I feel absolutely shattered, exhausted, and not from a place of laziness, but from a place of like my body's genuinely tired, I'm like, do you know what? I won't do that intense workout. I'll do like yoga today, or I'll go for a walk with my dog. But yeah, with food as well, totally. Like I had so much guilt around food before, and that guilt led to binging. It's a really interesting psychology, you know. You feel guilty to eat, and then you eat, and then you feel guilty, and then you just end up eating so much more, you know. And so that guilt is like, I don't remember the last time I felt guilty from eating, and I eat, and I like to eat, and I really enjoy eating. But there are two things that I do. One is that I eat a lot of healthy food, but my food always has to be delicious. So I can't eat like unhealthy delicious. It's got to be delicious, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm half Turkish, and I think that's the Turkish blood in me, like it just wants to eat. And the other thing as well I think is really important was acceptance around the fact that I like to eat, and that because I like to eat, I also don't necessarily eat tiny portions, and there was an acceptance for me that, you know, if I do like eating, because of my body shape and my metabolism, I'm not going to be a size 8. I'm going to be a size, I'm a 12, and I've been a 12 for a very long time. I'm going to be like a, you know, UK size 12. that's okay, you know, because because I know my body so well, in order for me to be much smaller, because I exercise a lot anyway, I know that I really have to reduce what I eat. And actually I enjoy my food, and I am okay with how I look, and so
Yeah,
different mindset. But it's, as well as acceptance, it's like when I eat food that tastes good, whether that's going to be healthy or unhealthy. But I like to eat healthy food, and I because I think it tastes good, it feels good,
absolutely. Absolutely. Who likes bland food? Not me. I like tasty food. I'm from a Caribbean background as well. I like tasty food. I like the flavors.
But I was just going to say it's all about feeling good,
Absolutely, yes.
it's all about feeling good, and that is my philosophy. And it's like, you can feel good and eat chocolate, and you can feel good and eat an apple, and you can feel good and do yoga, and you can feel good and lying in bed, but it's about when you are deeply in tune with your body and coming from a place of self-love, rather than disgust or hatred or like dislike, or whatever it is. Your relationship with all this is different. So it's always about, oh yeah, how am I going to feel good, how am I going to energize myself, how am I going to feel good.
No, I absolutely agree. So the next question I wanted to ask you is, if you could give any of the women watching live or on the replay some advice about being in their power, being in empowerment, what would that be?
I think it's really important for us to look at, what are our skills, what are our talents, what are we good at, what are our specialisms? Because so often we're looking at, well, what's wrong with us and what do I need to change or improve? But we all have such powerful parts of our personality that are beautiful, that are parts of that are skillful, that are talented, that are wise. And that could be anything from being the most loving and nurturing and giving mother to, a CEO boss babe, running a, I don't know, multi-million-pound company, but what are the talents there? Two very different talents, and at the same time extremely beautiful. So it's like recognizing ourselves instead of always putting ourselves down, and we have such a tendency to do that, and connecting to that sense of, what am I good at? What is my specialism? What is my power? And your personality is also your power. Like I said, that sensitivity for me, I always thought it was like my biggest weakness, and it was my biggest bloody superpower. I just didn't know it. So wake up every day and be like, what is amazing about me? And the more you do that, the more you the quicker you or the easier it is to do. And I actually did this thing not long ago. I wrote down 100 things that I love about myself. I was like, how the hell am I going to do that 100 things? I was like, that's a lot. And once I started, I was like, I can't stop.
Yeah.
Because it's not things like, oh, I love my ears, or I love my eyebrows. And it can be that. It can absolutely be that. And it is that. But it's also like, I love the way that I smile, or I love the way that I am really caring towards my dog, or I love the way that I put out the dustbins for the house, or I love the way that I'm committed to my work. I love the way that I am committed to my rituals. I love the way that I listen to my body, or whatever. It doesn't have to be just about the way you look or your skills and your talents. It can be lots of different things. And if you struggle, ask a best friend or someone who really, really loves you, and they're going to help you.
Absolutely.
It's kind of simple advice I could give, like, for you to do now,
Yeah, no, and I think that's really, really good advice, because I think as a society, we concentrate too much on our weaknesses and what's wrong with us. And it's almost seen as like being in the ego or being vain if we start celebrating ourselves. But I might just say, yeah, I'm thinking if it's egoic, then so be it. But you know, if you are not going to love yourself first, you know, so yeah, beautiful advice.
Ego
So
is not necessarily bad, right?
I don't think so.
We need our ego. We need ego. Who are we without ego? You know, but it's like, where is that ego coming from?
Yes.
You know, so yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I'm going to check the comment section. Let's see. We've got some hellos, Hayes, but I don't think we've got any questions. No questions. So is there anything else you would like to share before we move on to your sacred offerings?
I think we're good.
Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to hand this section over to you, just for you to share your services, your products, your social media groups and page with everybody, talk a little bit more about what it is you do. And then after you've done that, if you send me over the links, I'll share them on my page. So I'll hand it over to you now with the sacred offerings.
I think the kind of easiest way is for me to share my Instagram, which is at the World of Wonderful. And on there, if you go to the link in my bio, it kind of gives you all the different things that I offer. I have free meditation, self-love meditations, weight balancing, health meditations, free 5-step guides to confidence and body confidence. So I have lots of kind of free stuff that you can download or get from there. And I also have a couple of groups, Facebook groups, which again you can find in that link in bio. So if you want to become a part of that community, then I would love to have you. Or if you just like to ask me a question about anything that I've spoken about, then you are welcome to. And yeah, I have coaching programs and better healing programs, and all of that is on my website, so chereenortanja.com. My signature program is my Body Beautiful program, which is all about you know, falling back in love with your body, learning to eat without guilt and with freedom and in an intuitive way, falling in love or actually just liking exercise and learning how to move your body in a way that is joyful and pleasurable, but ultimately about, you know, self-confidence, self-empowerment, liking yourself, being able to wear what you want, eat what you want freely, and yeah, all of those details are on my website.